Dominique Thorne. I have seen all of the first 3 episodes of Ironheart.
Most likely to improvise during a scene.
Sacha.
A $200 million Marvel series, gone in flames. And if you believe Sacha Baron Cohen, it wasn't bad writing that killed Ironheart. It was the person wearing the suit. From halting entire night shoots to rewriting scripts in front of directors, what really happened behind the scenes might be worse than anything that made it on screen. Because if Cohen's right, the real villain wasn't Mephisto. It was Riri Williams herself. When Marvel introduced Riri Williams in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, the plan seemed airtight. A young, black, female tech genius stepping into Tony Stark's shadow, perfect for the MCU's next generation push. Dominique Thorne had charisma, a fresh face, and the weight of Marvel's marketing machine behind her. She'd be the brains, the attitude, and the heart for fans who missed Stark, but wanted something new. And Marvel didn't just cast her. They crowned her as the successor. Toys, merch, interviews, crossovers. It was all lined up before the first episode even aired. The hype was real. The expectations? Through the roof. And then, crash. Ironheart debuted to decent curiosity, but by episode 2, the viewership nosedived. Critics complained about sloppy pacing, muddled tone, and a Riri who came off stiff, overconfident, and weirdly unlikable. Fans weren't much kinder. Memes like the Iron Man and Iron Dictator started trending. Her dialogue didn't help. Lines like, "I'm smarter than Tony Stark," made her sound arrogant instead of inspiring. The heist crew was called all lame. Plot holes piled up, and one scene where she literally bit an electric wire to hack it became a running joke online. Even Robert Downey Jr.'s pre-release endorsement couldn't save it. And Marvel, dead silent. For months after Ironheart aired, the story looked like it would follow the usual Marvel flop cycle. Disappointing numbers, a lukewarm press tour, and then a quiet fade into the background while Disney moved on to its next big project. And then, Sacha Baron Cohen spoke. Fans had known for over a year that Cohen, yes, Borat himself, had been cast as the MCU's long-teased demon villain, Mephisto. It was one of those casting choices that seemed both insane and perfect. Cohen's reputation for pushing boundaries and upending expectations meant that fans were ready for something wild. But then, the series aired, and Mephisto barely showed up. No major press appearances, no big Comic-Con reveal. His role felt more like a cameo than the menacing multi-episode arc everyone had imagined. So when Cohen finally sat down for a low-key podcast interview months later, fans expected funny stories about wearing horns or some vague Marvel secrecy. Instead, they got a nuclear detonation. Cohen didn't tiptoe. He said outright that Ironheart was one of the most frustrating professional experiences of his career. And not because of Marvel's notorious secrecy or tight shooting schedules. It was because of one person, Dominique Thorne. According to Cohen, from the very first table read, Dominique made it clear she wasn't just playing Riri Williams. She was running the show. He described her as the director, the star, the producer, and the studio head all at once. In his words, the set didn't feel like a collaboration. It felt like a controlled environment, where everyone, from the director to the camera operators, was walking on eggshells. Cohen painted a picture of a lead actor who overruled directors mid-scene if she didn't like how her character reacted, rewrote dialogue on the spot, sometimes holding up the entire production, argued with department heads over lighting, costumes, and even camera angles. One moment stuck with him. During a pivotal Mephisto scene, Dominique stopped mid-take, turned to the director and said, "This isn't how Riri would react. We need to change this." The crew froze. The director looked stunned. According to Cohen, the rest of that day was spent rewriting the scene to her specifications, a delay that cost thousands of dollars. And it wasn't an isolated incident. Cohen claimed that this happened regularly, to the point where crew members started referring to her privately as the Iron Dictator. It wasn't just a joke. It was how they coped with the tension. But the real kicker? Cohen suggested that his role as Mephisto, the one fans had been hyped about for years, was deliberately cut down in editing because he refused to do reshoots under what he called controlled creative conditions. If true, it meant Marvel had gutted one of its most anticipated villains not for story reasons, but because of an off-camera power struggle. Cohen's words didn't just pull back the curtain, they set it on fire. Fans who had written off Ironheart as a creative misfire now had a new question. Was the series doomed from the start because of what was happening behind the scenes? And once Cohen broke that silence, other voices began to emerge. Once Sacha Baron Cohen's interview hit the internet, it was like someone had opened a floodgate that Marvel had been desperately trying to keep shut. At first, it was just a few cryptic comments, a Reddit thread here, an anonymous industry blog post there. But within days, more people who had been on the Ironheart set started talking, and they weren't pulling their punches. Crew members confirmed what had been whispered in private since the first week of filming. The nickname, the Iron Dictator, wasn't a fan invention. It was born on set. Some even claimed that Dominique embraced it, laughing it off as proof that she was passionate about her character. The stories painted a picture of a production in constant chaos. Entire shooting days lost because Dominique refused to perform scenes as written, scripts rewritten on the spot, not by the showrunners, but by Dominique herself, pen in hand, crossing out lines and scribbling replacements while the crew waited. Tensions boiling over during department meetings, with Dominique allegedly arguing about set design, camera placement, even which props were in character for Riri to touch. One crew member told an insider blog she'd grab the latest revision from the script supervisor, mark it up in front of everyone, and hand it back, saying, "This is how Riri would say it." No discussion. It wasn't just disruptive, it was expensive. Every rewrite meant reblocking scenes, redoing lighting setups, and paying overtime for a crew that was already stretched thin. Then came the infamous night shoot incident. It was supposed to be one of the most important scenes of the season, the first full confrontation between Riri and Mephisto. According to multiple sources, Dominique clashed with the director over how her character would react. Voices were raised. Dominique walked off set. The crew waited for hours, hoping the standoff would end. It didn't. The night was scrapped, nothing was filmed, and the production ate the cost. A week later, one assistant director had quit, and a camera operator had been reassigned. And it wasn't just the people in leadership roles who felt it. A makeup artist posted a cryptic Instagram story late one night. Sometimes the costume isn't the only armor people wear on set. It was gone by morning, but the screenshot made its way to fan forums, fueling speculation that the set had turned toxic. Even actors who weren't directly involved could feel the shift. Between takes, there was less joking, fewer conversations. The Marvel family vibe that had been a selling point for years, gone. By the midpoint of production, one Marvel executive allegedly flew in from Los Angeles to personally observe what was going on, something that almost never happens unless there's a serious problem. What the public saw on Disney Plus months later was a show that felt flat, rushed, and strangely uneven. But for those who were there, the final product was just the tip of the iceberg. The real Ironheart story, the one Marvel didn't want told, was a months-long battle of egos, rewrites, and lost time. And Marvel's next move would make it clear. They weren't going to fix the problem in public. They were going to bury it. By the time filming wrapped, Marvel wasn't celebrating. They were damage controlling. Sources say the marketing budget was quietly slashed. Compared to Loki or Moon Knight, Ironheart's promotion was minimal. No big press tour. No constant social media blasts. In the edit bay, Dominique's most confrontational scenes were trimmed down to soften her image. Cohen's Mephisto role, originally spanning multiple episodes, was cut to fragments. NDAs were reinforced. Crew reminded that any leaks would trigger legal action. And perhaps most telling, Marvel's future crossover plans quietly removed Riri Williams from the lineup. No Avengers, no Young Avengers, nothing confirmed. When Sacha Baron Cohen's interview hit the internet like a wrecking ball, fans expected a fast, fiery rebuttal from Dominique Thorne. After all, this wasn't a random blog post or a gossip tweet. This was a co-star, an A-list name, publicly suggesting she had hijacked an entire Marvel production. The headlines were everywhere. Sacha Baron Cohen calls Ironheart set a creative dictatorship, and her name was in every single one. For nearly a week, she said nothing. Then, late one evening, her Instagram story lit up. It was a single slide. Plain black background, white text in a clean font. No Marvel branding, no dramatic visuals. The stories being told are baseless. I'm proud of the work we did on Ironheart, and it was a team effort from start to finish. I wish nothing but love and respect to everyone involved. It was short, polite, and for many, completely unsatisfying. She didn't name Cohen. She didn't directly deny specific allegations. She didn't even address the most damning claims about script rewrites, halted shoots, or crew walkouts. The choice of the word baseless caught attention too. It was vague enough to avoid legal trouble, but ambiguous enough for critics to argue she was dodging the core of the accusations. Screenshots of the post spread across Twitter, Reddit, and fan forums within minutes, and the debate began. Team Dominique saw it as a dignified, professional response. Why give fuel to gossip by engaging point by point? Others saw it as calculated evasion, the kind of PR line you give when your legal team says you can't risk saying more. Then the digital sleuthing started. Within hours of that statement, fans noticed she had quietly unfollowed several Ironheart co-stars. Gone 2 were some of her behind-the-scenes photos from set, including one of her in the Ironheart suit that had been a fan favorite. She turned off comments on all recent posts, effectively cutting off direct public interaction. But the most eyebrow-raising move came 2 days later, when she reposted a motivational quote to her Instagram story. "Sometimes being misunderstood is the price of leadership." No caption, no context, just those words. Was it a veiled shot at Cohen? A subtle dig at Marvel? Or simply a coincidence? The ambiguity kept the speculation alive. Then came the disappearing act. Dominique skipped a scheduled podcast appearance, citing schedule conflicts. She canceled a planned panel at a fan convention, also last minute. Weeks went by without a single new public appearance or interview. It was a bizarre contrast to how Marvel stars typically operate, especially after a big project drops. Usually, they're everywhere. Conventions, fan Q&As, live streams, feeding the hype and reinforcing their place in the MCU family. Instead, Dominique seemed to be stepping back, almost retreating from the spotlight altogether. And in Hollywood, when a star suddenly stops showing up, people notice. For fans, the silence wasn't calming the storm. It was making them wonder if the storm had already sunk the ship. By the time the dust settled, Ironheart had gone from Marvel's Golden Child project to a cautionary tale whispered about in industry backrooms. And Dominique Thorne, once touted as the MCU's next big star, was suddenly facing a career that looked like it had been put on ice. The warning signs came quickly. First, a mid-budget indie film she'd been attached to quietly recast her role, citing creative differences in a single, half-buried trade announcement. Then, fans noticed her absence from Marvel's own marketing for other projects. No cameos in teaser videos, no surprise appearances on Disney Plus promos, no convention slots alongside other rising MCU stars. It wasn't just what she wasn't doing, it was what everyone else around her was doing. Actors who debuted in smaller roles, like Iman Vellani, Ms. Marvel, and Xochitl Gomez, America Chavez, were outdoing press, engaging with fans online, and building goodwill despite their own mixed reviews. Dominique, by contrast, seemed to be fading from public view. Rumors started spreading that she'd been blacklisted from major franchises. Not officially, but in that quiet Hollywood way where studios just stop calling. An anonymous producer allegedly told an industry blog, "It's not about talent, it's about the energy you bring to a set." And no one wants to risk a repeat of Ironheart. The fandom was split down the middle. Her defenders argued she was being unfairly targeted, that her assertiveness was being framed as arrogance because she was a young black woman in a male-dominated industry. They pointed to male actors, even MCU veterans, who had fought for changes on set without being branded difficult. But her critics pushed back with a hard truth. Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, and Scarlett Johansson earned their influence after years of successful films, not before they'd proven themselves as leading stars. In their eyes, Dominique had tried to take that power before she'd built the resume to back it up. Marvel, as usual, said nothing, but their silence was deafening. There was no Ironheart Season 2 announcement, no inclusion in the upcoming Avengers slate. And when Marvel's most recent franchise roadmap dropped, Riri Williams wasn't listed in any confirmed crossover events. For a studio that plans its universe years in advance, that omission spoke volumes. Even the Ironheart fandom could feel the shift. Online groups that had once been filled with speculation about Riri's next big MCU moment were now reduced to sharing old concept art and debating whether Marvel had already written her out of the long game. Whether this was a temporary cooling-off period or the quiet end of Dominique Thorne's Marvel career, one thing was clear. The same franchise that had once been her launchpad was now a locked door. And Marvel didn't seem in a hurry to hand her the keys again. The Ironheart collapse wasn't just one person's fault. If Cohen's claims are accurate, Dominique's on-set control battles hurt the production, but Marvel's unwillingness to step in early, that let the problem spiral. The bigger issue might be the studio's habit of betting on hype over storytelling. Fans didn't reject Riri because of diversity. They rejected a character written and allegedly performed without humility, struggle, or growth. That's why audiences embraced Miles Morales or Shuri. They earned their heroism. Marvel needs to remember what built its empire: character arcs, collaboration, and stories that connect first, message second. So, is this the end of Dominique Thorne in the MCU? Right now, the signs aren't promising. She went from being the next Iron Man to being absent from Marvel's future entirely in less than a year. Maybe this is just a cooling off period while tempers settle. Or maybe Marvel has already made its decision, quietly cutting ties to avoid more headlines. Either way, the Ironheart saga will be remembered as a warning. In Hollywood, talent opens the door, but humility keeps you in the room. And when Sacha Baron Cohen exposed what he saw behind the scenes, he didn't just tell a story about one actress. He showed how even the biggest franchises can crack from the inside. The question is, will Marvel learn from it before the next $200 million gamble?